Hi, welcome back to Small Bites. I'm Monique Champagne, LPC Associate, here with The Gracious Mind. Today's Small Bites topic is positive psychology. This is a topic that I really enjoy, and I'll explain to you a little bit later why I use it so much in my therapy and I use it in my daily life. Looking forward to sharing some tips and tricks on mental health tips, ways to use positive psychology in your life. So right now you're watching this video on our Small Bites YouTube channel. Also, feel free to join us on Wednesdays at 12 Central Standard Time for Small Bites Live on Instagram, where we get to talk with you about different ideas that you had based on today's topic. And then also we'll add in a few other tips and give you some other ways to think about using positive psychology in your work and in your life. And so today we'll be talking about positive psychology. Specifically, we'll talk about flow, and I'll talk to you about what is positive psychology, why should we use it, what is flow, and then at the end I'll give you some ideas on how to incorporate flow into your own life. And then check us out again on the Instagram live on our Small Bites Wednesdays, noon Central Standard Time, where we can talk a little bit more about what you learned today. All right, so we're going to talk about three things today. The first thing we'll talk about is positive psychology in general, what it is and what it isn't. We'll talk about flow, the benefits of flow, and then how you can utilize flow in your own life. And then we'll also talk about some examples that you can take into your life and figure out how you already use flow or ways that you may incorporate that into your own life. So let's talk about positive psychology. So what positive psychology is not. We are not here to tell you just put on a smile, just feel better, just think happy thoughts, and that the world will therefore be a better place. Traditionally, psychotherapy, psychology has been used to treat and diagnose mental health disorders, and even that perception of normal and not normal. It kind of gives us this dichotomous black and white thinking in terms of I have a mental illness or I am mentally healthy, and that there's no in between. The truth is we all struggle with mental health, with managing our thoughts and our feelings, and positive psychology is one way to recognize the difficult things in our life, and then to also give space for the positive things. So that may be talking about our strengths or our values or getting to know ourselves a little bit better. So the goal of positive psychology isn't necessarily to obtain or to catch happiness, but to create moments in life that can cultivate joy and value and meaning. So when we utilize positive psychology in our life, we can build self-esteem, we can build feelings of hope and joy, and then we can also build resilience to help us face the challenges that life brings our way. So there are lots of different techniques that are used under the umbrella of positive psychology. And I'm almost positive that you'll see me again here on a Small Bites talking about another positive psychology intervention or a way that we can utilize this feeling of value and creating joy in our lives in a future Small Bites session. So keep an eye out for that. But today we'll be talking about flow. So what is flow? I will dare to say that everyone in their life has experienced the taste of flow at some point in their life. Have you ever been in an experience where you are so in the moment, in the zone, that kind of time passes by in a very strange way? You look up from a project and before you know it, it's been however long, maybe a couple of hours, and you don't realize that you've been so invested in this activity for so long. You have tasted flow. You have been in the state of flow, which is a psychological state of being in which time shifts. It is when we're doing an activity that requires some effort on our part, but not so much effort where we get really stressed out and are not able to do the activity. So flow can be accessed by doing any activity that has two things. The first thing is a set of clearly defined goals. So this can be when you're doing a puzzle, the goal is to complete the puzzle. And then the second part of that is to balance the level of challenge and the amount of skill that you have and that you have to use to complete that activity. So think of a chart. On this x-axis, we have, say, the challenge level of a specific activity. So that could be running or writing or doing a puzzle. And then on the y-axis is the level of skill that you have. So when the activity challenge is low and the skill level is low, it's going to be kind of on that lower point of the chart. And then when the challenge level is really high, but also our skill level is really high, we may be considered an expert in that field. And then we're going to experience flow in a very different way as an expert than we would as a beginner. And so what the research shows is if our skill level is low and the challenge level is high, we're going to get really overwhelmed, maybe even anxious about an activity. Think about something that you've learned in a classroom that was just a little bit above your understanding. It was really difficult to kind of grasp that challenge and then to complete that activity successfully. And then on the flip side, when you think about activities in school that you were just able to flip through with kind of little to no challenge at all, your skill level was way too high, you are likely to get bored. And you think about a student in class who's not really being challenged enough, they're going to be in that high skill level, low challenge level. And that's that part of the chart means that we're going to get a little bit more bored with the activity and won't really find a lot of motivation in continuing to do that thing. And so when you're considering an activity to tap into flow, you really want to be in that sweet spot, just in the middle. And if you're a beginner at something, you want to start with something that has a challenge level that matches the skills that you have. So that when you're done with this, say 500-piece puzzle, 250, let's say start at 100 if you're a beginner, right? You want to start with this puzzle and then the clearly defined goal of completing the puzzle is done. And then I want to challenge you that as you're going through these activities, or at least afterwards, to reflect back on your sense of time, your sense of autonomy, and your sense of kind of personal control over this activity and your success level. And wondering if you've tapped into that feeling of flow. And if a 100-piece puzzle gets too easy, your skill level's gotten too high, and the challenge level has stayed the same, you're going to get bored. So you're ready to kind of up your challenge level to put yourself back into that sweet spot zone where your skills and the challenge of the activity matches, and you stay in that really sweet spot of flow. The initial research on the psychological concept of flow was studied in artists and athletes. So if you yourself are an artist or an athlete, you might imagine how you fit into that chart of challenge level versus skill and how much flow you experience in those activities. And what we also know is that everyone has access to flow. We know that flow creates more flow. Flow creates, helps us maintain plasticity in our brains, which just tells us that our brains are able to gather more information over time. We're making our brains stronger. We're able to adjust and change and be kind of plastic in the idea that we're taking on new information in the world. We're able to use it more effectively and therefore learn more things and tap more into flow. Another cool side effect of flow is that it maximizes those positive chemicals in our brains. So basically, flow is a way to focus on process, a way to focus on experiencing and doing a thing, not necessarily on the end result. So here are some examples of using flow in your own life. I mentioned puzzling. I think doodling is also another fun way of tapping into flow. It may be helpful to do so with a prompt or some sort of activity in mind, an end goal in mind, because that is one part of being of tapping into flow, is having an activity that you can monitor your progress in. So one example of that might be doing Zentangles. Another example are doing morning pages, as suggested by Julia Cameron in The Artist's Way. So this is taking time, as suggested, every morning to fill out 3 complete pages of just something. So it's kind of a free thought writing exercise, and it could include something like, I don't know what to write right now. I have to fill up 3 pages, but really what it does is it kind of taps you into understanding yourself a little bit more, the process of doing something with a specific goal in mind. And then by the end of it, you kind of have lost the sense of time and you're really engaged. It's challenging for you, but you're also using the skills that you do have to complete this activity. Other examples are baking or cooking, or you might want to do some yoga. If you are athletic or have the desire to move your body, you can also go walk around or jog. That taps into the physical activity of doing a thing, checking off the thing that you've done, and then being really engaged in the moment in that activity. So to tap into flow, you don't necessarily need to start a whole new hobby. you can look around at the things that you already do or the things that are around you. Being mindful of your environment can really allow you to tap into those little moments of flow where you're just connected, you're present focused, and not thinking about the end result. Tapping into flow might mean that you could take a class, learn a new skill, or maybe engage in flow with a friend or a family member. One activity I'd like you to try is to set a timer for 25 minutes. Consider an activity that you'd like to do, whether that's gaming, drawing, puzzling, baking, and then do the activity, do the thing. And after that, you want to reflect back on whether the flow was accessible to you. So 3 things needed in accessing flow are the ability to kind of focus on what you're doing in the moment. You want to do an activity that is intrinsically rewarding. That is, it's a thing to do that's fun just because it's fun. And yet we want to make sure that we're looking at it having a goal or something in the end that you can look back on and say that you've completed. And so in your reflection of that activity, you want to kind of analyze your sense of control, your sense of self. In fact, where you disconnected from yourself, where in this case, that is kind of a good thing. We're getting out of our head and into an activity that brings us joy and that also has a result in the end that helps us feel like we've completed a thing. And then we also know that the chemicals that are moving around in our brain when we do those things help us feel good, help us make more of those happy feelings and tap into flow more in the future. So I want you to go out and be a beginner. I want you to try something new, and I want you to kind of enhance your challenge level or be more mindful of the things that are challenging you in your world, and then reflect back on how you already tap into flow, which is just one example of the overall umbrella of positive psychology. So now that we've talked today about flow, which is the combination of action, doing a thing, and awareness of doing the thing, we've tapped into flow, we've tapped into positive psychology. Now I want you to join us on our Instagram Live on Wednesdays at 12 Central Standard Time. This coming Wednesday, we'll be talking about this same topic, but do keep an eye out on lots of different positive psychology techniques that I'm excited to bring you in our future Small Bites. If you like what we're doing here on Small Bites, do be sure to check us out on all of the social media platforms. We're really excited about the work that we're doing and really open to any ideas that you have on topics that would be helpful to hear from us. All right, y'all have a great day. We will see you next time.